Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman, and we are going to be an authority.
Like an authority or the authority?
There will be rules.
That's vague.
This means submitting to my power.
Wait, what?
You'll follow a code of laws. You'll maintain control and peace, and you'll protect populations.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty positive.
You'll be reasonably good.
It feels kind of weird that you needed to clarify that with reasonably.
Come with us, or stay.
My name is Scott Daly, and I am coming with you. This is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of betraying birdmen, drug-laced candy, in a good way, and alien-based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week, we're covering chapters 9.14 and 9.15. Team Breakthrough finally reunites, sort of. Kenzie gets a breakthrough of her own, and then Goddess completely falls to pieces. Matt, how did you feel about these two chapters?
These were great. The arc basically comes to its culmination, its climax after 15 chapters plus a few interludes. It's been a hell of a ride. It's kind of its own little contained story, and it's going to be great to kind of reflect on the arc and how everything has led up to this point. There's also some really great moments of tension, especially in 9.14, but really across the whole thing, just incredibly good moments of tension.
Yeah, I wonder, and I kind of want to pick Wildbow's brain about this. I wonder if there were moments where he thought about cutting this thing off and doing like the Goddess story across two arcs, you know?
Yeah.
Because this is the longest one in this book so far. It is a kind of self-contained story, and I'm actually glad that he decided not to do that. I'm glad we have this one arc that we can look at as the Goddess mind control arc. And it's this one kind of contained story within a story that moves so many things forward, but at the same time is its own little thing. I really like that decision. It's not technically over yet. We still have at least one more interlude chapter coming up that we'll have to cover next week. But yeah, the story proper has reached its conclusion for this part of it. And yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. That culmination, and there's like three different moments of like culmination of stuff that we've been building to, like for different characters, and it pays off in such a great way, and I love it.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to get to all these moments, but as usual, first we have some announcements. I guess the only announcement is a reminder regarding the Halloween contest, which ends basically at the end of the month. I think technically November 1st. So please snap a picture of your parahumans themed Halloween costume and email it to us. And the patrons will vote on it, and there's prize money involved. So yeah, please check that out.
Yeah. We did get a question via email today, and I answered it, but I thought this would be a good thing to send out to everyone else as well. We got a question about, photo editing and how much of that is allowed. The question was specifically, can I edit the background of my image as long as I don't edit the foreground, as long as I don't edit the costume or me? And yes, that's totally okay. If you want to get crazy with your backgrounds, go for it. The real judging of the contest is supposed to be about the costume. So as long as you're not using editing software to change what your costume looks like, that's not fair. That's cheating. But anything else, go for it. And guys, I'm so excited to see what you guys got. It's coming. Matt, we're getting close.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right, next, community spotlight section, where we read what people wrote from last week's thread. And if you recall, the discussion question was pick a character and explain how they are the author of their own destruction. And we got a lot of really interesting answers, a lot of ones that I wouldn't have even thought of, but then the explanations turned out to be really good. So first, from Bisexual Punch Party, they named Dr. Mother and say Dr. Mother violated the evil overlord protocols. And they basically say, this isn't Dr. Frankenstein getting killed by his monster. This is Dr. Frankenstein creating an assembly line of monsters who were then fed into a pain machine and then released.
I like that a lot. That's really good. Scandia Blessing. Wow, or Cable Sing? Scandia's Cable Sing? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
They picked Emma. They said Emma held to a philosophy that required a specific person to remain weak and broken down, a perpetual victim, so Emma could define herself as strong by comparison. Then, that person, being Taylor, turned out to be stronger than her. I like that a lot. That's a really good way of looking at it. I did see someone say Emma, and I was like, huh, how could you? Oh, yeah, I think that's a really great answer.
Yeah, I mean, I like the nature of the question was that we obviously didn't define what it means to be the author of your own destruction.
Right.
And different people took it in different ways, and I never would have picked Emma, actually. But yeah, I mean, she kind of makes her own bed, right? Like,
yeah,
like she wouldn't have had the ending she did if she didn't do the things that she did completely, under her own willpower.
Yeah.
So next, Sarah Penguin chooses Cherish and says, Cherish not only thought joining a group of psychotic killers was a good idea, but she even went and found them on her own and then had the even worse idea of betraying them. And they go into more detail about Cherish, but yeah, Cherish, the fate she earned maybe wasn't as bad as she deserved, but she brought it on herself.
She did. This was actually my answer when you came up with this question. So I'm glad to see that. That was the first person that jumped into my head.
Yeah.
Beard of Valor goes through each of the primary Cauldron members. They say that Alexandria was killed by someone who wanted to be a hero but was alienated by the corruption that she fostered in the PRT. Eidolon created the Endbringers out of his need to feel important, and Legend wasn't killed, but his credibility and leadership was destroyed by his compromise of his morals. I like that a lot. Each one of those in their own kind of way resulted. And I think the most interesting thing about this question, Matt, is it's a lot of these characters, almost as if that's like a thing that Wildbow is talking. And I love that this question came up because I think there's some of that kind of going on in these chapters that we're going to be talking about this week.
Yeah, so I think some of it is Wildbow is doing this in his story on purpose, and some of it is just the inverse of a character who gets their just desserts, if you will, is like a really narratively boring thing where it's like, oh, they just died for no reason or for a reason that wasn't related to their own. Like someone in the thread mentioned, like Gru doesn't appear to be the author of his own destruction because he's
right.
Like he kind of dies more as a consequence of Taylor's actions. That was the comment in the thread, and it's like, yeah, that actually makes more sense, and so there's less poetry to Gru's death in that particular way. I don't know. There's poetry in a different way, you could say, but yeah, I think there's a reason why most people are kind of getting their just desserts, and that's another way of phrasing they're the author of their own destruction, I think.
Yeah, no, I like that. Sure.
Yeah. Calinero 985 talks about Kraus, our favorite character. And he says Kraus is a trickster. Kraus is a pusher. He's a doer. He takes the lead because he feels that he has to, and no one else will, or no one else competent will. And he makes a lot of mistakes, and his errors accumulate over time and get worse and worse. The end of Kraus's story isn't his death. It's where every teammate or friend has gotten tired of cleaning up after him and gives up on him, and he's responsible for the monsterification and death of the one person he was trying to protect. So, because his death at the end, again, is not really, he's almost passive for his actual death. But yeah, that all makes sense to me. I like that.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Next up, we have Pizza Hot Dog Lover, who first gives us kind of their definition for author of their own destruction. They list three different things. First, if they had minded their own business and left the situation alone, they would have avoided their downfall. That's number one. Number two, the actions that led to their demise were ill-advised and unwise. And lastly, they chose to commit these unwise actions as a result of hubris, overreach, and or greed. And they chose, based on those stipulations, Ned Crawler, who dies because he hears about a big dangerous thing that happened and decides he wants in on that. That's a pretty, succinct distillation based off those those things that he outlined. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I love his power as representation of hubris, that he's just like, I can take anything.
Yeah.
And then he actually can't.
Yeah. Nope.
The end. There's nothing more to say about that.
Nope. Bye.
To Sarwat, they do something interesting with this question. They don't necessarily just name someone and describe their traits or how they're the author of their own destruction. They talk about instead Alexandria and Taylor as having related but different contrasting downfalls. They lay out a through line of similarities and differences in terms of the emotional relationship with humanity that these characters have, their powers and abilities, and their role as an inspiration to others, and then also the outcomes of their choices. And the core difference that they argue is that Taylor remained anchored in friendships and relationships with other people, at least until the end, while Alexandria was driven to a kind of cold inhumanity and disregard for mundane threats by her power and her position. And this led to her downfall the way it happened.
Yeah, I like that. Although, I mean, I think you could even make that link further, though, that Taylor, in the end, for Taylor to be successful, she has to finally cast off those last few anchors to humanity and friendship and other people to fully achieve the victory that she wants. She makes a similar choice that Alexandria probably made slowly over time to distance herself and become this cold, uncaring jerk.
Yeah, I mean, you could say something about what the story is saying about the nature of how, in order to do what needs to be done, sometimes you have to destroy your humanity. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Stuck in Reddit Factory is next up, and they take an interesting approach naming Danny Hebert Taylor's father and talking about how Danny didn't die, probably, but he did fail in his role as a father. Basically, this whole post is a really good outline of what Danny's mistakes were, and the basic theme is he drops the ball when Annette died, and he didn't really ever pick that ball up again until it was too late. And I think that's a pretty good distillation. I think Danny's a guy that, like, first of all, he's going through something that I don't know if people are, like, prepared to go through, and then, like, Taylor is such an interesting, difficult person that I don't know how the world's best father could have handled Taylor as she started on this descent. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he definitely was kind of either. I feel like there were moments where he could have like laid down the law. He could have been a father, and it could have maybe turned her path a little bit. And that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think about Danny every once in a while because we didn't see the period of time when he was all like distant and consumed in his grief. We just kind of pick up and it's kind of implied that Taylor's been kind of not too well taken care of for a while, at least emotionally. And so people infer things about it, which I suppose it's fair because that is, his daughter to become a supervillain. So
yeah.
All right, Kyrgyzstan discusses this very arc. Actually, says basically they're talking about Goddess and says in 9.15, Goddess describes how she initially sees power because she could, but now everyone expects her to try it again, and so she's obligated to do so because the best defense is a good offense, basically. And then also she chooses Amy Dallin as her voice of reason, and then doesn't listen to her anyway, which those are both bad choices, I guess. I mean, I guess the second choice is better than the first one.
Yeah. I don't know.
And they say, Goddess wrought her own destruction by refusing to grow beyond simply what was sufficient to take over Shin. Not only did she let herself stagnate in the first place, she refused to acknowledge the reality of her changed circumstances or change to confront them after she found herself on Gimel. Yeah,
and without getting too much into a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, I very much agree with that assessment.
Yep. That it's kind of skipping to the end of the discussion, but
yeah.
So overall, in general, other comments in the thread, there was a great Megafire post about Ashley, which everyone should check out.
Yes, please do.
And just there's this one kind of offhand comment someone made. It was Dominic Aldaze, I'm not sure, points out that one way in which Damsel and Swansong differ is that Damsel may have actually had more quote-unquote institutional support than Swansong did. And she may have actually been less alone because she was in the prison this whole time, which we don't really know much about what her environment was like, but
Yeah.
they basically, their point was like, we didn't say what they expected us to say, which was that maybe she's had more more hands-on support since she's been in the prison. And I don't know if we have any evidence of that one way or the other, but I guess it's possible.
It is. Yeah, it is possible. I'm not sure. I don't know how much we just don't see. I think that would be an interesting avenue to look at, again, this idea of two different paths to recovery that these Ashleys they're taking. But yeah, we don't know for sure. If that's the case, I hope it's explored further in the future.
Me too. All right, let's get on into 9.14.
All right.
We open this chapter with Victoria tumbling through dark water, completely disoriented, and thinking this time there was no frame of reference, even a wrong one. And this is an explicit reference, of course, to when she tumbled through a fiery sky a few chapters ago. And she thinks about this. Was that only foreshadowing for what was to come?
Yeah, she's doing her job for us, Matt. It's really upsetting.
Yeah, I know.
But this is me getting back on my fire versus water symbolism shit again, Matt. We're here.
Go for it.
Because 2 times in this arc, Victoria has lost her orientation. Once she is battling against a lung and the overwhelming presence of his fire, and she orients herself using what she thinks are buildings and lights, but she's wrong. They're just like sparks and like tossings off of the flame, right?
Yeah.
Here she's disoriented again, but this time the dark water offers no way to reorient herself. She has no perspective, no sense of anything, nothing to grab onto, and she's completely turned around. And I like once again we're showing this difference between water and fire. This idea of fire as light, and water as darkness, cold, scary, like indifference almost. But I think we're kind of bringing more nuance to this than we have in the past, because the fire here is not like objectively good either. It's just like comparatively better, but it has a level of danger to it as well. Like this, if fire represents light, represents truth, it can trick you, it can misorient you and fool you. And I love that comparison, that kind of dichotomy between these two things that we're continuing to see throughout this story.
Yeah, I like this representation of the fire as being deceptive, especially in light of our arc title, Gleaming, which is like a refraction or a. I mean, I don't necessarily think of deception when I think of Gleaming, but it is that you're seeing light that's not actually from that source. It's a reflection, basically. Yeah. All right. So as she's tossing around in the water, she thinks about fear, about the nature of fear. First, about fear of the dark, which she is, of course, immersed in, and which she inherited from her mother. And she shares herself, actually, although not for the same reasons. And she thinks about how, like, a sleepover was actually ruined when she was a kid because she was so scared of the dark, she needed a nightlight. And she says to herself, one way to deal is to bend to the fear. And she's thinking about her mom, says, I'd seen her bend to the fear to the point it was an integral part of how she lived.
Yeah, I love this whole interaction. I dove pretty deep into this whole thing, Matt, as I do. But we are hard on Carol a lot, and Carol mostly deserves it, I think. But I think this is like a really instructive moment for our favorite bad mom. We've talked about this before, but I think this is one of the first moments where Victoria really like specifically admits, like we've kind of gestured towards it, but she kind of states that, hey, my mom's past trauma like still absolutely rules her life, like absolutely 100% of the time. The fear of darkness rules her life, and she has bent her life to the point where that fear is just part of it now. That's just who she is now. And I think this is great because this gets into like this cyclical nature of trauma, this idea that this terrible, horrible thing happened to Carol, and it's ruled her life. Every moment of every day, her life has been decided in some way because of this trauma, and she's passed that on to her kids. She's passed that fear, that trauma on to her children, including Amy, and like we're seeing people unable to break from this cycle. And I love this idea of cyclical trauma and breaking from it. And it kind of really to me cements why parents are so involved in the story, why parental units and why we talk about family relationships, because it's like a family is just perpetuating that family's trauma. And I really like this little wrinkle on things.
Yeah, I like this idea that she's aware of it here, because it's really hard to be mad at someone while also recognizing that they're driven by trauma and fear. Like, it's a step toward forgiving that person, I think, or at least understanding them.
Yeah, forgiveness might be a bit much, but definitely a step toward understanding. Yeah. I love how Victoria frames this idea of fear too. It's just it's such a very Victoria thing to do, right? She says, okay, fear, 2 ways to deal with it. First, you can succumb to it, you can let it bend you or bend to it rather, or you can fight it. And in her mind, if you fight it, sometimes you lash out. If you push hard against something, you lash out, you make quick, unplanned choices, and that gets other people hurt. But if you succumb to it, it provides maybe a necessary caution, which is good, but then Victoria immediately connects succumbing to it, bending to it, back to Carol, back to this idea of someone who bent to that fear so much that it became an integral part of their life. So, I mean, in this instance, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, right? Like, I could either attack it and get someone hurt, or I can let the fear in and let it rule me. And like, it's so, of course, this feels like Carol to me, right? Like, this is something that Victoria specifically learned from her mother. And she admits here that she learned this from, both instruction from her mother and by just watching her mom. And I got into this idea of, Carol has found a way to cope with her trauma. She's found a way to get through the day. She has this terrible thing that happened to her and it's ruling her, but she's doing okay. Like, she lives in fear constantly, but she's living and she's like managing to get through her days. And this is the whole thing we're talking about. We're talking about this idea of coping with your trauma and maybe getting to a place where you can recover from your trauma, right? So Carol has passed this trauma on to Victoria, and she's passed on the ways of dealing with this trauma. She's passed on the coping mechanisms. But she's done all this from a very arm's length kind of transaction. Like, she didn't teach her kids how to live, just how to survive. She didn't teach her kids how to love. She just taught them about fear. And now, I think here at the end of the world, Carol has kind of finally decided that she doesn't want to be ruled by that fear anymore. I think I see, when I see Carol like trying to bring her family back together and trying to connect these people together, she's a person that has decided she wants to get to a place of recovery, but she hasn't trained herself on how to do that, and she hasn't taught her kids on how to do that, and that's why it's such a big disaster. All this stuff is a disaster.
Yeah. I was wondering if this dichotomy of like, you either bend to it or you I suppose you fight it. Is that really the extent of the dichotomy there? I don't know. I don't know if there's much more to that thought, but I was like, there are surely other things you can do with fear. You can try to just feel it, acknowledge it, and then move on, right? That's not fighting it. That's something else. But I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, she goes to the extreme, right? I mean, that's kind of a Victoria thing to do, is like, here are my two options, and these are the most extreme results of each of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's sort of catastrophizing in that moment, actually. It's interesting. Yeah, it's a fascinating bit, because she's in a terrible spot, and she is actually a bit overwhelmed at first. But I think the thing about her that's kind of makes her a hero and makes her heroic and makes her good at this is that she recovers so quickly, because she doesn't spend a whole lot of time in this. It's just we're spending a lot of time talking about it because it says a lot about her.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you kind of posed that question, because let's just say that question might be posed at the end of the episode.
All right. So she knows if she uses the wretch now in the dark, not knowing where anybody else is, she could pulp somebody. So she uses her flight to fly herself through the water to a flat surface and push herself against it. And as she's doing this, she hears roaring through the water. I think there's a lot of great writing here where, especially during the reread, you realize that certain things mean certain things. Like, she starts hearing the roaring. You don't know what that is. Turns out later that it's Ashley. There's a few things like that actually.
Yeah, I mean, I find this entire sequence of frantically searching through the water just a fantastically like well-paced action sequence. Like we kind of set the stage. We have, you know, these dimly lit blue motes of Byron's that are kind of painting everything in this kind of eerie blue murky color. We have this time constraint as Victoria can only hold her breath for so long before she's going to need to solve that problem. And I like that, like, as she finds people, as certain conditions improve, others worsen. And this idea of, like, she says here, the movement of the water wasn't as intense as it had been in the first few seconds, but for every small amount that it slowed and calmed, I felt waves of stress and strain, my breath pushing against the inside of my chest, wanting out and wanting more. So it's never more, throughout this entire sequence, it's never more than a few beats of action before Wildbow goes back to the well of reminding us about the stakes. Victoria is running out of breath. There are multiple people here. The water is like going crazy. Like, I just think it's like when in a movie when you like cut back to an insert shot of the bomb numbers ticking down just to remind your audience of, okay, these are the stakes, this is the constraint on us. He goes back to that a lot, and I think it really kind of carries you through the tension of the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because this isn't even the most intense moment of this pair of chapters we're going to talk about, and this is still really incredible writing, and it's well paced. I agree in the sense that it's allowed the room that it needs to breathe, no pun intended. It doesn't rush through things frantically because because Victoria is in a hurry, nor does it drag. Obviously, it's kind of perfect. So anyway, what's happening here is basically, long story short, due to the combined efforts of the different team members, despite, you know, the visual fuzziness and everything, Byron provides illumination. Rain helps kind of keep people in position. Once she finds him, she kind of flies around, gathers people up, brings them to the hole in the ceiling that they made, and it finds Lookout because she's signaling with her flash gun. Everything kind of comes together because of everyone's unique abilities. And she gets everyone out, of this group anyway, not the people who went in earlier. But what happens also is, of course, Kenzie loses almost all of her tech that she was wearing due to the water damage.
Yeah, and I don't want to read too much into that, but we're going to in a bit when the time comes. For now, I think we have to say this is a pretty significant event here. There has never been a time for Kenzie throughout the story where we know for a fact that she's 100% stripped of all her tech, right? There's never been a time in the present day story that we've seen that version of Kenzie. So I think that we're kind of resetting her back to this no Tinker Tech state is important, especially when you put it in the lens of what comes here in the next chapter.
Yeah.
Or this chapter, rather. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So she goes back in. Victoria goes back in. She finds Damsel. She finds Thane taking shelter in a cavity made by Damsel. And then she goes back to find the rest of them, who, as far as we know, are like way underwater.
Yeah. I know it's such a small beat here, but I wanted to call attention to something. There's this moment when she asks Damsel if it's okay if she leaves her here. And Damsel replies, "You okay with making a lady wait when she can blast your head?" Damsel started. Her teeth chattered hard enough to interrupt her. "Clean from your shoulders?" So we talked about Damsel a lot last week, and I'm guessing we're going to be talking about her more in the coming chapters, the coming weeks. But I wanted to touch on this little bit here that I think this almost summarizes how I feel about her. Here we have this very classic Damsel moment, this affect she's putting on, this kind of hard indifference. I'm going to kill you at any moment type of like supervillain caricature that Damsel is. But then Wildbow chooses to intercut this with like the cold reality of the situation. This is Damsel projecting, and that projection being cut by a moment of vulnerability. She's cold. Her teeth are chattering. It's just a simple, mundane human weakness that's intercutting in this affect of arch villainy, gonna kill you all type stuff. And I think that's just like, that's cutting to the core of Damsel, right? That this is just This is just a projection. This is just you're projecting out the person you want to be, but that's not who you are.
Yeah, the whole scene is great because she appears to have saved Thane,
Right?
like saved a person when she's supposed to be this badass villain, and then of course like she continues to sort of give the badass one-liner thing, but is described as like nodding her head in a way that doesn't comport with the way she's speaking, as if she's like, yes, please save my beloved, only people I care about.
Right.
But like even in this moment, she can't kind of let herself be earnest about that with her words. So
it's really great. It's like, it's so revealing of her as a character. And I am so much more intrigued by what Wildbow is doing with these two characters than I was prior to us really getting into these last few chapters.
Yeah. So we learned that Sveta is fine now. Kingdom Come has been rinsed off of her. So she's all good.
I mean, she's fine.
Yeah, she's actually she's actually the worst off of the whole group at this point.
I really want to get into that in a big way when we get there.
Yeah.
Because I think you're right.
Yeah. Next, Victoria finds Swansong holding off the onrushing water using the annihilation component of her power. And the text says her power was directed at the hallway, a steady, continuous blast that bucked, kicked, and forced her to retain her control. I thought of fighting the shield as the wretch tugged at it.
Man, I love this moment so much.
Yeah.
So like it's such a badass moment, like of her literally like blowing the water out of existence, beating back the flow, beating back the darkness, whatever metaphors you want to attach to this. It's great. I love Victoria directly connecting herself and her lack of control to Ashley's difficulty maintaining control in this moment, which is obviously a callback to the previous chapter's musing on the damsel Ashley difference and how that difference manifests itself in how they control their power and what that means for Victoria. That's another kind of callback to this internal thought Victoria's having about how is she going to finally get control of her wretch. What will it take to get there? And she's once again, connecting herself with Swansong, seeing someone with a similar problem as hers, someone that has a similar lack of control that she does. And it's just, it's such a great moment. I forgot how much I loved Ashley because she was so like background and she's back in a big way and I'm just loving it.
Yeah. It reminds me of the the seating chart fan art that we got that kind of highlighted the comparisons between these characters and how several of them, her and Sveta and Ashley, share this like control of their power struggle.
Yeah. I also really like this a lot as reading it as like a connection back to Victoria's discussion of fear from the beginning of this chapter. Swansong is not bending to fear here. She's not succumbing to fear. She's actually directly fighting back. She is launching her power to fight back the tide of the thing that scares Victoria. So, I mean, this is really interesting to me, and it kind of ties into why, spoilers, this is going to be the topic of our discussion question this week. What Swansong is doing here is hard. She's struggling to maintain control. It's dangerous, but she's doing it. Like she's standing up to the fear. She's fighting back, and I think Swansong is a lot further along in her recovery than Victoria is at this point, and than Carol is at this point too. So maybe there's something to the idea of standing up to the fear instead of bending towards it, Victoria. I don't know. I'll leave the rest of you guys to kind of come to a conclusion on that. But I just find that really, really interesting.
Yeah, me too. That's awesome, and I agree. This is an awesome moment, actually. Yep. So she grabs Swansong and Crystal Clear and pulls them out, and finally she can take a breath. Ratcatcher's gone. Apparently she got away through event.
Yeah, a throwaway line that's not at all set up for like one of the most badass reveals in the book.
Yep.
Not at all.
Yep. We love that Ratcatcher. So they go back to Sveta and they help her open up her ball so she can get inside. Everyone remembers the ball.
Yep, the ball. Yay.
Sveta's favorite thing. And I wanted to clarify just kind of like the dynamics of the scene, because Sveta is kind of explaining what happened, and what she explains is Kingdom Come had splattered himself on the ceiling as a trap, And Sveta saw this, and then when she saw it, she immediately jumped out of her suit in order to basically like insert herself between Thane and the control panel as like a living wall, so that Thane couldn't get any closer to the server. Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean, my read on it was she kind of pulled like an updated version of the Sveta grabs all the flags on the field at the same time thing. Like, I don't think she completely got out of her suit, but I think she released herself from it enough to do that, except instead of flags, it's like chunks of viscera and body, because wild bow. But I think yeah, that's what happened. Is she grabbed all the viscera onto herself, and then right before she felt being taken over, she moved to a place that she would hopefully not put any of her teammates in any kind of bodily harm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that all seems to be like something she would do.
Yeah, I mean, it's something absolutely noble and brave that she did for the sake of her team. But she's Sveta, so her reaction to it is very much, I was reckless, I was stupid, I shouldn't have done this. I forgot who I was, which is a very kind of very coded type of way of wording things.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us into our whole Sveta conversation.
Yeah. I guess we'll get there right now, I guess, because Sveta basically, as they're about to leave, Sveta asks them to take her prosthetic body, but to leave behind the tentacles, the appendages that Rain had made for her.
Yeah.
And the others, like the others at first, they're like, yeah, that's understandable. But then they convince her that they should bring them up, but leave them detached and not use them anymore. And Sveta complies. And I'm just conflicted about this whole interaction. I don't think I'm going to read the whole interaction because it's a lot of back and forth, but it's interesting how she really doesn't want to bring the tentacles along. They really represent something like a massive like regression to her. And I don't know if the other and like I'm personally like I'm not sure. I'm interested even in my own like reaction to this, because I was a little bit like mad at Victoria for kind of pressuring her. From my point of view, pressuring her to bring them, because I'm like, this is one of those things where like it's just not that important to bring the arms. Like they really bother her. They really represent something bad for her. She's not going to use them. Like, yeah, I guess they're good material. That's what Ashley says. That's the closest thing to like a good reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of comes off that they're valuing like the potential damage it could do to Rain above the very real and direct psychological damage it's doing to Sveta in the moment. So I think I can understand why that would frustrate you. I mean, I find this really interesting because when we first saw these arms, I was like, that's weird. That's something that Sveta would want, the person who like strives to be human, and like she is most happy when she's most able to pass as not like a monstrous tentacle thing. I was like, that's weird. And I guess what this is revealed here is that like Rain just like said, I've got a way to help, and just kind of made these things without telling Sveta. Yeah. And then just like presented them to her as like, look at this thing I made for you that I thought would help you. And Sveta, because she's the type of person she is, presumably was just like, thanks, I'll wear them because you worked hard on them. And then of course she goes through this terrible, awful event that like really in her mind sets her back, like that she's kind of back to being the person who sees herself as this monster that is uncontrollable, and whatever progress she had made that allowed her to, at least just for the sake of someone else, to sit in this suit, she can't handle that anymore. She's too screwed up right now.
Yeah, and that's I think this is something we've talked about a bit off and on, is this idea that Sveta is the most like she generally seems to be the most put together of the group.
Yeah.
In terms of of having a handle on her issues, but in actuality, she's the most worse off of the group.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably make an argument with that, but I don't want to. But I think that's why I think Victoria is so, I don't want to say dismissive, but like so like, come on, just compromise on this. Because Sveta puts off this front of like her relentless positivity puts off this front of everything's okay, everything's fine, I'm doing it, I'm gonna make it. Like she like is kind of relentlessly positive to the point of I think people in her group don't fully understand the magnitude of how bad she has it. And I do think you're right that like everything that each one of these people is struggling with, like everyone else on her team, the things that they're struggling with maybe with the exception of Kenzie, but I think you can kind of slot that in if you like squint a little bit. Sveta is also suffering from those same things, like this idea of controlling of your body, controlling of your power, this idea of, like wanting people to like you and people treating you as if you're a monster. This idea of the image of your past trauma being there and around you at all times. Like she's got it all. She's got it all.
Yeah. And having a dark past, a dark and bloody past,
right.
That was deeply traumatizing to her.
Right.
And we've never been inside her head, even back in Worm. Like we don't know how she would respond to like a really bad slip up, let's, if she actually had killed someone here, like, I think when we were chatting about this earlier, I was like, I don't think it would take that much to push Sveta into like Slaughterhouse 9 level, like monstrosity, because I mean, again, we don't know what her inner life is like, but like, if you just look at the situation, it's like, it's kind of incredible how well she does hold it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. And I think the game we were playing when we were chatting in GChat earlier today was like, let's take thing that person on Breakthrough is suffering through. Like Ashley's suffering through. She was this thing created to kill and destroy. And she both has the memories of being her past self, but also this realization that she was created to be this thing. Who else has that same problem? Yeah. That's Sveta has that same problem. And like you can go through each and every one of their problems and find a way that Sveta is also suffering from that same thing. And I do think like she's been kind of underlooked by us, by the members of her team as this person that is really has a really, really hard time. And it kind of just flies under the radar because she has that wonderful positive outlook. Like she wants to see the best. She needs that glass to be half full at all times. And I think that people kind of overlook the depth of what's going on with her. And I always go back to that, the Jessica Yamada question, Matt, of who's the one on this team that Jessica was most concerned about. And part of these musings I was doing today was like, God, could it be sweet little tentacle lady?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, I admit it's funny. I feel like we're doing the Byron thing that I was doing before, where we're like, we have the least reason to worry about Sveta, thus we're the most worried about her.
Well,
but it's not really the same, because I think we do have reason to be worried about her. It's just, yeah.
I'm not worried about her in like a she's plotting to do something evil kind of way. I'm worried about her in a could she potentially get pushed to a place that is bad for her and others? And I don't know. I mean, it seems like she comes out of this thing in bad shape. What happened today hurt a lot of people. A lot of these characters are in bad shape. I think Sveta is low key the one the most suffering right now, and that is like scary for her. And so I think that's why we're talking about this now. I'm not ready to chocolate her, Matt. I don't think she's gonna be this evil, terrible thing. But I think I don't know. I'm just worried.
Yeah, I mean, there's candy in this arc too. So
there is very distinctly candy.
But yeah, she spends the rest of the arc in her ball, which Victoria describes as Sveta's hell.
Right.
Even when, okay, we'll get there. Yeah. Yeah. So they get back to the surface. Swansong gives Lookout a big hug, and Damsel looks on, fidgeting with her claw hands.
Yeah. Let's talk about this for a minute, Matt. What do we think? We think we're saying here. I mean, Damsel seems to have a real, genuine, like, attraction feels like the wrong word, but
like affection.
Yeah, affection. There we go. She really cares about Kenzie, like seemingly to the same level that Swansong does, which is understandable. Is this just like Ashley's been like sharing stories about how great Kenzie is and what happened to Kenzie with Damsel all this time, and that's just kind of rubbed off in her a way? Or is this, do we want to get into like shard fuckery because we know that Ashley has this weird memory thing where she's getting other memories that aren't hers, and her clones are sharing memories in a kind of way. Is this what's going on here? I don't like to punt all character interactions off on shards because I think that takes away from the growth and the change of the character, but it could be.
Yeah, I see. I don't think you're wrong to say that she has an affection for Kenzie specifically, but this particular scene I interpreted as not necessarily being about Kenzie, but about being the concept, the conceptual representation of what Kenzie means in this moment where Ashley is hugging Kenzie is hugging her, and she's sitting there looking down at her claw hands and realizing that she can't really share that. She can't like stroke the hair of a little friend who looks up to her like that. It's for her, she kind of holds on to this view of like, I'm going to be the badass supervillain, but then you don't get to just have like basic human contact. And she's seeing that and realizing how much she wishes she had it.
No, I like that a lot. Yeah. Like it's just the act of affection coming from a person that looks exactly like her, but has just made different choices. Yeah. I think that's really great. I like that a lot. I will accept that.
Okay.
I like also we take the time to notice that Rain has noticed the arms and notices it in a very Rain-like way. Rain looks at the tentacles crystal clear carried. He didn't remark at anything, instead turning to survey the situation, almost the opposite of what Damsel was doing. So he just kind of like, okay. Yeah. I noticed that. I'm not gonna do anything about it. I noticed it. I'm just gonna kind of
don't want to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Don't want to rock the boat.
I'm not looking at those specifically and wondering why she's not wearing anymore. And I'm just gonna look at how's everything going.
Yeah,
it's just a total Rain move. It's very much Rain, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It almost serves to justify like I wonder if they had showed up without them and just like, where's Sveta? She's in her ball. If he would have just been like, oh, okay. But like, I almost think like this compromise draws more attention to the fact that Sveta's not using the arms.
Yeah, right. They're just because they're gonna have to have the conversation where they're like, oh yeah, here's the arms. Please cannibalize them and use the parts because Sveta doesn't want them.
Yeah, like Rain, buddy, you're great. Yeah. I appreciate this. Sveta does not want to look like that. Like that's not her thing. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, with the way Tinker powers work, for all we know, he just like that's what his power wanted to build, and so he built it. Like it's yeah. So, I like this. I love this bit of Victoria being her group's psychological analyst and leader, where she's kind of looking over the situation and very rapidly is like, I could look across the group and I could see the people who had very little fight left in them. Me, Ashley, Sveta. Rain had taken a bit of a beating, but that was usual. By contrast, Lookout and Capricorn looked fairly eager to go. I knew that they had their own issues, that Tristan was on edge from earlier in the night, still battling some demon I didn't know the name of. Lookout's demon was named Lookout, accompanied by a yin-yang extension of that struggle, currently in the form of Monoceros.
I'm so glad you pulled this out, Matt. It's really good. Like, I love the dig on Earth Gimmel's best punching bag, Rain. While also like bringing a pretty deft, just quick examination of those two characters' problems. I on a reread, Wildbow kind of coyly setting up Monoceros as a yin-yang extension of Kenzie's problem is brilliant, because like it's like we're clearly setting up that like an important part of Kenzie's choice and Kenzie's issue is going to center around this person. Like this person is going to matter very much to Kenzie's continued well-being and health. And I love we've just kind of laid those seeds a little bit here, and I think that makes the moment that we're going to get to in a bit pay off even more, even better, because it's like we've laid the seeds. It's like, look, here's Lookout's demon. Monoceros is a key cog in that demon because she's a person that gives Kenzie almost exactly what she wants, and let's see how that plays out.
Right. Yeah. Her power is almost like a power that is expressly designed to push down on the button that Kenzie has that makes her susceptible to it gives her the problems that she has.
Exactly.
And so it's the ultimate test, you could say.
You could.
So Victoria and Capricorn try to steer the group toward deferring to Crystal Clear, letting him lead. But Monoceros detects that there's a game afoot, uses her power to verify that Capricorn is lying when he says they aren't acting against Goddess. Crystal Clear isn't really much of a leader. He doesn't really have a plan anyway beyond just like get away and try to report on the situation. So he kind of wanders away.
Yeah, I mean, I love how this plays out. Like Crystal Clear is like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You're all acting weird. And like the one thing we know about Crystal Clear from his interlude is that like he has a difficulty kind of explaining like his power to people, like explaining the things that he sees and how to interpret it. Like giving that word to people is something he struggles with. So like we're still very much in Crystal Clear territory. Like we still very much recognize this character from the very beginning of the book. And it's even like more so now because Goddess is like mucking up all the mucky muck.
Yeah. I like that we got to see inside his head so early to kind of actually understand him. Because otherwise, if we didn't see inside his head, I just don't know what I would make of him, But I have a really clear impression. No pun intended.
Would you say it's Crystal?
I would say that.
We're gonna lose some subscribers for that one.
Yeah, this episode's rough. All right. Then the most tense scene in all of fiction occurs. I think I was like literally frozen in place, like trying not to breathe while reading this following scene.
Oh, it's so good. And before we get into it, I just want to talk a bit about how Wildbook sets it up to accomplish that. Because we have this problem. We have Monoceros. She has been like the bee in everyone's bonnet for the past few chapters. It's like, all right, what are we going to do? And then everyone has to like kind of talk around what they actually want to do because of her. And so she's been this very clear and present danger for everyone. But in this moment, we think, okay, it's going to be fine. Like, yes, they have to find a way to kind of fool or get around Monoceros, but they outnumber her. It's going to be fine. They might have to reveal themselves as working against Goddess, and then that's going to bring the Goddess conflict to the forefront suddenly. But that's just driving us towards the conflict. It's going to be fine. And then suddenly she calls Kenzie and says, Kenzie, let's go. And like the entire tone of the work shifts. Like everything suddenly like becomes less, okay, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, the conflicts we're gonna figure out, and it's just like, fuck. It's just like, and the book seems to recognize that, and it's like you cut the background noise or something like in word form.
Yeah.
Everything else drowns away, and it's just like Kenzie and Monoceros, and there's nothing else. And I just think it's set up so wonderfully.
Yeah. My recollection of like the actual experience of reading was that like I didn't fully like grasp the gravity of what was happening. Like I was like always like a sentence too late in like getting it, because you just like don't want to get it, because basically Monoceros says right out, like, Goddess gave her to me as a gift, explicit meaning like I'm gonna go serial murder her now,
right? And
I like didn't parse it that way the first time. It wasn't until I saw how everyone was reacting to it that I was like, oh shit, she's gonna go kill her like right now. She's gonna just like take her away and kill her for fun.
And to me, that is something that feels deliberate, because we took Monoceros and we established her as this great, big, disgustingly gross threat, right? Like one of the first things we do is establish exactly what she does, who she does it to, how many times she's done it, and how disgusting and horrifying it is. And then time goes on a little bit. And then we have a few beats throughout the last few chapters that have almost been like jokes at Monoceros' expense, like, should we save her? I don't know. Maybe we just let her die. Maybe we and it's just like we've kind of deflated her scariness a bit to kind of lull both the reader and I think the rest of the group into this kind of false sense of security where she's a problem that can be surmounted, but not like a threat. And then it's like the book flips a switch and goes, no, remember, like, this is who she is. Do you remember this? And you're just like, oh yeah.
And the way she handles it is like so perfectly like vicious and effective because just to summarize, like I don't know how to do it justice. I'm not going to read the whole like scene obviously, but like she uses her power on Kenzie and tells her, like, come with me. If any of your team tries to follow, stab yourself in the throat as many times as you can with this shiv. And if you do it right, I'm going to be really proud of you. Mm-hmm. And it's completely fucked up. And you as the reader are like, oh, this is horrible because this is the perfect thing to say to Kenzie.
Yeah.
That will absolutely work on her. And no one can follow. Like, no one has a power that would like circumvent the situation. So they're completely. It's not even a standoff because they're just gonna lose. Like
they've lost. Yep.
Yeah. And then Lookout responds, it doesn't really work that way though. Her voice was small. I do more than I'm asked for homework and the teachers get annoyed. I work hard on my projects and my team gets upset because I'm overworking myself. Every minute I'm working hard, and it is hard. There's this feeling in the back of my head, like I can imagine the warm fuzzy feeling when they're amazed and happy. I've made them happy. That's what pushes me to do it. But it never works out the way I hope because I hope too much. And then instead of complying, she drops the shiv, and then the team charges, and Monoceros is grabbed by Antares and Swansong, the two big sisters. They get a hold of her. They drop her down the bye-bye hole. Bye-bye.
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt. This is so amazing.
I know.
Like you said, Monoceros played right into her heart's desire, right into the thing we know Kenzie wants more than anything. And Kenzie, God bless you, has a motherfucking breakthrough. Like she literally has a breakthrough in this moment. She realizes the error of her ways. These are things that we've seen her communicate before. She said these things when she first had the conversation with Victoria. She said she was aware of these things, that she knew that if I make these choices, if I do these things, it makes things worse. I know that, but I can't help it. So like, it's not just in this moment that she voices this. It's that she voices this and then drops that damn shiv. Yeah. And I love that we take the time to show how this plays out. Like Monoceros says, you want to impress me, don't you? You can feel me big in your head and in your heart. Hold on to that feeling and believe. I want you to believe. If they step forward or give you any reason and you do as I've told, then this will be the time that matters. Believe that. And Kenzie responds right before she drops that knife. I believe you. So it isn't that she like sniffed out that she was lying. It isn't that she sniffed out that she was manipulating her. It isn't that she doesn't trust that what Monoceros is saying is true. It's that she did trust that this was true. It's that she did trust that she would be happy with her. And she realized now in this moment that the wanting of that was bad, that the going above and beyond was bad. The hoping and the desire and the need to make someone happy at the expense of everything else is not good. She believes her, and she drops the knife. And I think that's my favorite part of it is not that, like, it's very easy without that line in here to say it's just like, oh, she just sniffed out that she was just trying to manipulate her. She's just, Lookout's really smart and she sniffed that out. But that's not what this is. She believed her.
Yeah, I really like that analysis. I really like that. And I think that ties in with this idea that we've had for the last few kind of episodes about how the story is using this mind control element to challenge the characters in ways that are kind of the perfect way to challenge these particular characters. Put them under a kind of stress that is pushing them in a direction that they're like the least comfortable with in the world, you know. And Monokuro's power, I don't know if you could necessarily call it mind control, but it is definitely a mind affecting power. It's exactly the kind of mind affecting power that you would expect Kenzie to be vulnerable to. And here's an example of her using her therapy honed coping mechanisms and strategies and superior thought patterns he's adopted to essentially break out of this effect via the mechanism of just having grown, you know. It's beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful. And I want to pose this thought to you, and I don't want this thought to take away from Kenzie's growth here at all, because this is an amazing moment. It's a moment that she's earned. It's a moment that the story has earned, and I think it pays off entirely well. But I don't think it's a coincidence that all her tech is gone when she makes this decision, when she makes this choice, when she has this breakthrough, that she's kind of stripped down to just herself, and she doesn't have the phone to fall back into or her database to run into to check stuff, or she that all that's been stripped away from her, and it's just her and just Monokuros, and this is the moment that she makes that choice. I don't think it takes away from the importance to point that out.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, and she even has her flash gun, but the point is, I think that this actually goes to your point, is that it almost wouldn't have mattered if she had that, because Monokuros is immune to her targets anyway. Because she tries to use the flash gun on her, it doesn't work. So like the point is, Kenzie is like utterly defenseless.
Yeah,
and that is kind of what pushes her to the point of being able to just give into her better nature, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Well, and she doesn't have the kind of crutch to lean on, right? Like anytime something bad happens, it was like, okay, do something on my phone that gets some information about my step-parents, dive into a database and find out something about this, and find a way I could like try to figure out what this person is thinking, try to read something via a camera shot of them, or like a facial recognition pattern, or a social, like, all that's gone. She doesn't have any of that. It's just her.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And so, because we're not done giving everyone credit, because I think this is such a fantastic moment that everyone deserves credit for, can we just like give everyone a round of applause for not just like immediately brutally murdering this person? Like the things that Monokuros was saying to the team about what she was going to do to Kenzie were horrific. And again, Ashley and Damsel do not kill her. They don't kill her. They drop her down a hole and seal it. She's in timeout, but Victoria says no, we are not killers. That is not who we are. And so they don't do it. And I think that's just good. Pat yourselves on the back, guys. Good job.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure like 99% of the fandom would have just been like, yeah, that was fine if they had killed her, actually.
I was pushed to the point where I was like, yeah, she probably deserve that. But I think it's better for them all to not do that. And man, it is lucky that Chris isn't with the group at this point, right?
Yeah. And no, I mean, you're right that it's better, but it's better for them.
Right.
That was your wording, but like, it's better to not have that on your hands, even if it was a serial killer who would be on death row.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, again, I don't want to get into the deciding of whether or not Monokuros deserves to die or not. I think I'm just saying that it's better that for our characters who are trying to grow and become better people, that they are not the ones that have her blood on their hands.
Yeah. So then the next thing that happens is Swansong gives Lookout a little pep talk.
I was so happy. Like I love this book so much, and I enjoy even the most disturbing, disgusting parts of it. But like, it's rare that I'm just like, this is warming my heart, and this was a moment that just is warming my heart. Can we just read it, Matt? Can we just read it?
Please do.
Ashley says, my first genuine friend that doesn't have my DNA, and you know that's a high bar when it comes to quality. I turned to look at Swansong talk to Lookout, a small laugh from Lookout. And if you want to know for sure when people are proud of you, when people think you're amazing, then you should know that this. And it just trails off there because Victoria decides this conversation isn't for me, and I'm not going to listen to it anymore. And it's such a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment between these two characters that are kind of like reuniting. They've been apart from each other through various ways. And I love every bit of it. I love it all. I love, like, we see a laugh from Lookout here, and like, there's part of you that could argue, is that like how she smiles and laughs when she's uncomfortable? And it's like, no, I don't think in this moment. I think that's just a genuine laugh from Kenzie, who is just genuinely happy about that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I didn't read anything negative into that. All right, so next, Crystal Clear. Yeah, we're moving on from that scene. We're gonna leave it behind now. It was great. So now Crystal Clear makes it a short distance away, and then he comes back because the whammy has whammied off the team and onto him. We learned pretty soon that this is probably when Goddess got her power battery back.
Yeah, I like this because it's one of those like confusing in the moment things, like where you're like, wait, he just left and now he's back and now he's mind control. And he says like something bounced off. It came from you, and you're like, what? What does that mean? But the reveal to this comes quickly enough that you're able to still recall it and connect those dots pretty quickly. I actually think this is like an underrated skill that Wildbow has that I think is actually something that's more challenging that it comes off when you're just reading a book, like the ability to set something up but know the precise timing to pay it off in a way that the reader's just like, wait, what? And doesn't need to be reminded about the thing that you're paying off. Like,
right.
I think it's like it's a balancing act to know when to do that, how long to wait. And I think he does it pretty well here.
Right, yeah, because you're like, okay, well, I'm sure that'll be explained, and then
right.
Like you just said, before you forget, it is, and then
yeah,
it's perfect.
And he doesn't need like a sentence or two reminding it was like, oh, this is why Crystal Clear randomly was whammied. Remember that? Like he doesn't need that because it was close enough to where you're just like, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's well said. Yeah, so Victoria and the team head over to kind of the makeshift staging area in the buffer world, searching for Natalie or for Ratcatcher and making sure Amy isn't sneaking up on her. Eventually, she sights all three of them and also Chris, who is changing from a fin-shaped plague disgust thing into something else, the twisted vulture roadkill from before. And he looks at the team, and Victoria says that he communicated in one look. He was with Goddess as we were, but he was no longer one of us. And my reaction here is, as usual, swing and a miss, Victoria. You have partially interpreted Chris's state of mind correctly, but incorrectly in an important and crucial way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's one of those things that's, you're right, it's not technically wrong. Like, he hasn't changed to the betrayal form yet, right? So he's probably technically still with Goddess. And he probably is. And he probably is technically no longer one of them too. I guess I'm jumping ahead of myself. We have a lot to say about Chris and his killing of Goddess, so we'll get to that in a bit. But I just want to, like, this scene plays super well. There's something like final to all of it, right? Like, Goddess is standing there victoriously. She's won. This is her army. She's won. They're before us. And here next to her is Amy and Chris. We have our team breakthrough is finally back together after being apart for so long, except that Chris is missing. Like, and like, so we have this moment of, okay, we've lost our team member. Our Goddess has won, but there's also an underlying feeling of oh no to that. And it's just this moment that just plays really well as this like climactic, but in a weird way moment. And I think that actually makes the next chapter pay off better because the next chapter kind of feels like an epilogue in some ways at the beginning, and then it like morphs into something else.
Yeah. That's a very interesting way of phrasing it, and I don't think I ever would have described it that way, but I know exactly what you mean. That's interesting. Yeah, so 9.15 opens up the chapter drawing our attention to the enemies within the milieu, how everyone and everything is not hunky-dory just because everybody is aligned under Goddess. The people who hate each other still hate each other. They just all listen to Goddess first.
Yeah, I love, like, we've been talking about Goddess's mind control for like 13 chapters, Matt. And it's fascinated me from the start. And so it's not a surprise that here 15 chapters later, it's still fascinating me. Her control is so like inherently destructive. Like it's like all you guys hate each other, but you all have to work together because you all must report to me. Like she's like the poster child for terrible leadership. And it just feels like something that's only sustainable through violence and destruction, right? Like there is never going to be any kind of symbiosis in a leadership structure like this. It's just never, ever, ever going to happen. And I like that we're getting that here because I think that is important to the end of the chapter.
Right. Like, yeah, you can imagine if she had, made it that these groups would persist in trying to backstab each other constantly.
Right.
While being under her. And like, yeah, it wouldn't really be that much of an improvement.
I think they absolutely would. I mean, I think we have later here a discussion with Rain where his friend Aaron is threatened, and I think that threat would have absolutely been carried through, and Goddess wouldn't care as long as you do what I say still. So yeah, I mean, it's like it's an inherently violent form of control, and it's, man, not good.
Yep. So Victoria is very much off kilter due to Amy's presence lurking around her periph. She thinks I could rationalize and reassure myself, and those reassurances about her character and the girl I'd grown up with fell to pieces when I thought about how she'd repeatedly breached my boundaries. When she'd used her power on me in the first place, if only that, I could have maybe forgiven. When she'd used it on me a second time, following my explicit no, because I'd been scared and I'd been dissolving alive, when she had constantly showed up despite my best wishes. So this is yet more of the inexorable, but very gradual shift of Victoria's perspective on Amy, which may not even qualify as that, but the sentence, I could maybe have forgiven, in the context of Amy, seems important.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right that this I think that is a shift. I don't know if Amy or if Victoria from a few arcs ago would have said that the initial thing would have been fine or forgivable, at least, had it stopped there.
Yeah.
But I do like this. I kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit with this one, Matt, because I was thinking about like what is bad in the Parahumans universe. Like what is bad and what is like truly unforgivably awful. Because a lot of characters in this book do bad things, right? Like some of our favorite characters, in fact, have in the past done really, really bad things. But I want to parse what I think the book is saying about like what is bad and what is that unforgivable stuff. And I think like this slots very nicely into our assumed, our analyzed discussions about the theme of forgiveness and recovery as it comes to this book, because everybody does bad things. Sometimes people do really bad things, but what separates a person who does a bad thing from a bad person is change, the desire to change, the desire to learn and to grow from our bad choices. Victoria here sees Amy as a bad person, not just a person who has done bad things, because in her mind, she keeps doing them. She keeps coming back. She keeps being there. She keeps trying to fix everything. She keeps showing up. She has not learned. She has not grown. She has not tried to change. she has squashed second chance and third chance and fourth chance, and that's the person that Victoria sees here. And I think this is very fitting when you examine that in the lens of what Goddess represents in this story, I think.
Yeah. This is very, very interesting. So do you think the book is saying this, or do you think this is Victoria's mentality, or do you think those are the same thing?
I think the book is not judging Amy. I do think the book is drawing Amy as a comparison to a type of person who is not like learning from mistakes, and how that is becoming detrimental to her recovery, to Victoria's recovery, to this general idea of recovery.
Yeah. Definitely a very parahumans theme to say, like like the person who doubles down rather than learning and changing in response to negative feedback is usually a person who ends up failing, and eventually.
That is exactly who Goddess is, and that is exactly why Goddess is bad, and that is exactly why this book punishes Goddess by taking her life away from her, because she made a choice, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we get there, but she made a choice, and then she was given a second chance, and her response was to make the same choice over and again, to return to that status quo, to get back to that way. And she has arguments for why she has to do it, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think that is the bad part about Goddess. And that is what I think Victoria sees in Amy, and I have to say, I think the book does see that in Amy to a certain extent. I don't think she's like saying, "Oh, Amy is definitely a bad person," but I think the book is showing Amy as a person that is missing the point a lot of the times, and is making bad choices. And she's very Taylor in the way that she always has good reasons for those choices. Like, I think she means the best, and we're getting ahead of ourselves here, so maybe we'll just move on. But I just want to be thinking about this as we kind of circle the drain of Amy's decision at the end of this chapter.
Well said. All right. So the team takes a little breather while they deliberate on who to talk to next. Kenzie complains about her broken gear, which is both obviously a valid and understandable thing to worry about. It also puts our team on the back foot because their star tinker is basically out of the game.
Yeah.
And is kind of a setup for Kenzie's inevitable new and improved gear that she's going to build soon, right? And then Rain has a little bit talking about how the idea of having a place of his own, like a cabin or something, appeals to him a lot. And then Swansong and Damsel chime in with their aesthetic input on what should go into such a abode. There's a lot in here from a character point of view. It's nice that we're touching base with all the characters and kind of letting them take a breather, relax, remember who they are when they're not fighting for their lives. It's important to do this, especially toward the end of an arc that's been full of action.
Yeah, it's all very good and it's all very funny, and I like it a lot. I like Rain's very true to character desire, like this idea for a place of his own, a cabin, a solitary life where he doesn't have to answer to anyone. He is his own boss. Like, that makes a lot of sense for a person who's always been around a community that has brainwashed and controlled him his entire life. That's a very understandable desire to have. But this is what I was talking about when I was talking about how it feels like an epilogue, because this is the kind of conversation you have after the fighting's done, right? We did it. We won. Now let's talk about what happens tomorrow. I got to start working on my new gear. It'd be sure great if I could get some time in a cabin, and then joking back and forth about that, and all these wonderful character beats of characters who finally get to like relax a little bit. It's very like post-battle relaxing chatter. And it's uncomfortable because we know better, and so does Victoria. Like, so underneath all this like great, relaxing, funny banter that we're getting, there's this current of unease. We know this isn't over. Victoria on some level knows this isn't over. And I love how this is handled, because like they're having this kind of relaxing banter talking about the future, and Rain says something about like speaking of, and Swansong says, and now we're free. She looked around, or something, and that like then we're back. Like it's like the sunny epilogue ends, and we're back with Victoria saying something. They were talking about the future and dreams, and all I could think about was the uncertainty before us. So it's like we have we kind of skirt into this rosy epilogue, and then it's like, oh wait, no. Goddess is the bad guy, remember? We still haven't defeated the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean, I did the cinematic thing again where as they're having the conversation, you're getting shots that are like of their faces, maybe like an up angle of them and their reactions to what the other people are saying. And then when it says she looked around or something, I imagine the camera taking a shot from like an above angle showing them and kind of like the other capes around them getting ready to fight and like villains everywhere and medical supplies. Like clearly you're still in the middle of a battlefield. In fact, you're the announced plan is that you're now going to be going, into another battle. So
right. Yeah.
We don't know that yet, but we'll get there pretty quick. So that before they kind of end their kind of discussion, they turn their focus to Chris and to their enemies, and they point out that Chris has changed way too many times today.
And they immediately are like, did Amy do it? Or Victoria's immediately like, did Amy do it? Is this Amy's fault? And I think that's interesting because we'll learn later that she says no, right? That this wasn't her. So I think it is setting up a kind of reckless abandonment on Chris's behalf. Like he's making choices that are going to hurt him in the future, but he's like desperate. Like this is, it ends up being their last best choice. And like, I think they don't understand in the moment, like, why is Chris being so reckless here? Like, why would he behave like this? This doesn't make any sense. And it's because he's playing chess behind the scenes with his forms and they don't know it. Yeah.
I think that all makes sense to me.
So there's this moment here before they decide to approach Goddess that Victoria wants to split up the team. She says, look out, you shouldn't come with us. And it's for a lot of reasons. She says it's because Monocaros her absence will immediately be noticed by Goddess if Kenzie is standing there. At least if Kenzie is away, she can be like, oh, Monocaros is off with Kenzie somewhere. Her secret desire behind this is she doesn't know what's going on with Chris, and she thinks Chris leaving the group and Kenzie having to be witness to Chris kind of betraying their group would be very difficult for her. She just doesn't want her there. And Lookout is basically like, no. She's just like, Victoria's like, I have a gut feeling about this. And Kenzie's response is, I have a heart feeling about this. And Victoria loses this argument. She ends up relenting, right? Like she doesn't want to, but like it's almost as if Lookout like earned that right. Like she earned the right to dictate that we're staying together here because she just fucking defeated Monocaros, and Victoria can't argue with that. Like I think we're kind of seeing how the group treats Kenzie shifting now, because I think Victoria always saw she's the youngest member of the team. She's a kid. She was always treated as a kid with kind of kid's gloves, and I think she's like starting to earn her stripes in their mind to where like if she makes an argument, like she's right, we gotta trust her.
Yeah, I mean there's definitely like a complete absence of condescension from Victoria. It's just like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly annoyance because she thinks she's in the right here and that she shouldn't come, but she does it anyway.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated when Breakthrough has internal disagreements and how they handle them, because we saw this happen earlier with Sveta's tentacles. Mm-hmm. It's happening again here. There's a disagreement. Somebody gets their way. Somebody doesn't get their way. And like, I always have this feeling of like, oh, well, so-and-so is not going to be happy with this. And then I'm like, well, that's, what other outcome could there be? Like, you can't always just like discuss it until everyone agrees.
Right.
So I'm always I always feel like I'm like, oh, they could have handled that better. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, how could they have handled that better? And I'm not sure that they could have. It's just I always feel like there's more to dig into in terms of how they have their conflict and their conflict resolution.
Well, the thing that I appreciate so much about it is you normally, when there's, kind of mandatory compromise, there's always kind of like some leftover resentment by the team who felt like they had to give in more than the other person. And that's something we never see in this group. Like, they have a conflict, they decide on an outcome, and we don't really see that kind of internal resentment for like, oh, you won, that's not fair. That's something that I don't think we've ever seen. And I think that is like a testament to their communication ability and probably their origin as a therapy group. But I think that's one of the very interesting aspects of it, at least.
Yeah, I mean they're all well, except maybe Chris.
Well, yeah,
they're all really good like team players.
Yeah.
In the sense that they don't gossip about each other, even though it's like probably very tempting to do so. I'm not gonna say they don't ever gossip about each other, but if they do talk about each other, it's like functional, right?
Well, I mean, the team knows Chris's deal, and they have still yet to tell Victoria about it.
Yeah.
So I would say they don't gossip very much at all.
Yeah. I mean, Chris is always the weird one.
I mean, he's. I think it's so fitting that I don't know how long Chris is going to leave the story. I think it is not going to be an insignificant amount of time, and I think it's very structurally clever to have the person who always felt like the outsider on the team to literally become the outsider of the team to make that choice. It just means it's going to be a while till we get back to him. It's just a bummer.
Possibly.
Or maybe
All right.
we'll just throw a curveball. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So they decide they're going to all together do what Kenzie said. They're all going to stick together, approach Goddess. They try that. They're intercepted by the Fallen, led by Seer.
Ugh.
Rain and Seer have a really fun interplay here, with Rain kind of standing up to him in like a perfectly Rain way. Victoria tries to argue her way past them, and the whole thing escalates to Seer threatening to hurt Aaron if Rain doesn't apologize. And Rain then like kind of starting towards Seer, being held back by Tristan. And then Cole Belcher joins the little party, and he throws his weight around as a possible new Fallen member to get the jerks to go back to Jerkville population them.
I think this is a really stand-up performance from our boy Rain here. Like,
Yeah.
As we said last week, he's been the punching bag for a bit, and that's fine. You need a character to be that every once in a while, but if you do that too much and he just turns into like, I don't know, Kid Win or something. But I think it's really great that we get a moment to remind both us and to remind him of the strength that he's found through his experiences in the books thus far, the strength and the growth that he's achieved. Rain is in a good place right now. Ashley is in a good place right now. Kenzie is in a good place right now. And we're just not going to talk about the rest of them yet.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that like we're highlighting here at the end of this arc the characters who have made progress. We had this whole thing where Rain and Ashley were kind of shuttled off to prison, and we were worried about, is this the right move for them? Is this going to make their problems worse or make them better? And now here at the end of the them in prison story, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Prison works.
Yeah. It's got the rehabilitative Barry in prison. It worked great.
There we go.
So while they're standing there with Cole Belcher, Victoria tries to find out why he let her down with Natalie. And he says he didn't. He got her free, but she got caught again.
Yeah. What an interesting guy, Cole Belcher, right, Matt?
Yeah.
So he basically steps into this conflict and stops it from escalating, which it was going to escalate. Rain, I wonder what would have happened if he didn't step in. Would they have actually gotten into a fight? I don't know. And then he definitely follows through on the promise he made to Victoria. Like, we'll learn later that it is because Cole Belcher got Natalie loose that the team ends up winning. Like, so that's big plays.
Yeah.
so he's like, I'm not saying he's a good guy. I don't think he's definitely a guy that probably has murdered a fair share of people, but Pobody's nerfed.
Yeah, little column A, little column B.
Yeah, I think he's a fascinating character, and I don't think we're done with him. I think like we spend time setting him up here, and I don't think it's like a one and done thing. I think we're gonna interact with him a little bit more in the future.
I agree. The great thing about these stories is that even if it were a one and done thing, like that's the level at which Wild Bow sketches even, tertiary characters.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But
it wouldn't be bad writing if we never see Cole Belcher again. But I think there's more that could be done with him here. He's like, seems like on Victoria's road to kind of getting out of this black and white, good and bad mind frame that she's seemingly going on. Cole Belcher as this complicated villain is an interesting stepping stone, and I would like to see that stone used again.
Yeah, I mean, my take on him is that he's actually like a pretty clever guy and doesn't really fit into the like thug stereotype that she immediately tried to shove him into. Because like he is the leader, right? That doesn't happen automatically.
Right. Just because he belches coal doesn't mean he's some like brute idiot.
Yeah.
Being
right.
coal belches? I don't know. I was trying for something there. It didn't really work. Moving on.
It happens. Then there's this image. Amy stood at the other end of the stage, framed by Cryptid's black feathers, his rear legs to her left, one of his front legs planted on the ground to her right, head dangling so that his beak was near her elbow. Couldn't get rid of her.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great because like she's framed by this black feathery like bent necked monster, but also like Chris is their teammate. He is their guy, and he's the only one that is not with the team right now. And immediately in the way of getting to him, if they wanted to, is Amy. It's just like I think it's a great on multiple levels.
Yeah, I agree. So
I also really, before we move on, like in that moment. Right after Victoria says couldn't get rid of her, Goddess says to Victoria, I just can't get rid of you. And like there's this moment of Victoria's like, that's weird. we lined up, and it's like this really small moment that I don't think is like super significant to anything the story is saying, but like this alignment of thoughts between Victoria and the evil woman she's trying to figure out a way to not be controlled by anymore is pretty great.
Yeah, right. Like it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's just really good writing to put our character into this moment of being off balance.
Right. Yeah.
So Goddess angrily informs Breakthrough and Cole Belcher's group, the Chimney Sweeps, I'm going to call them.
I like it.
That they are setting off her danger sense at the moment, Victoria in particular. And she's really annoyed with them. She's tense. I read her tense as being frightened because I view her as being fundamentally motivated by fear. But anyway, she sends off Cole Belcher with Seer to attack the city and destroy Mama Mathers and then catch the wardens in the rear. Yeah,
I agree with you. And I like that you use the word fear because that ties into our whole conversation about how different people handle fear. And Goddess here she's fighting it. She's attacking it. I love this so much. Like she's more and more frantic. The end of Goddess does not happen the way I expected it to. I said last week, or maybe it was the week before, I don't know, they all run together, that the MacGuffin was removed from the equation and that Goddess's downfall will be because of her own kind of relentless fear and tension that pushes her people too far, and they betray her. And the cool thing is, it's kind of both of those things. Like it's the MacGuffin, but also like she does that same thing. And I think this is really like, it's interesting to me because like a few chapters ago, not long ago, Victoria and Sveta were almost at like blows because Sveta thought Victoria was doing some sneaky shit against Goddess. And now they're kind of all aligned, and Victoria is still like doing sneaky shit against Goddess. Like she's still loyal to her, don't get me wrong, but like they're like trying to plan, and it's almost as if like everyone has just kind of aligned behind the idea of something's going on here, like something's not right. And I think it's just because Goddess has been pushing against them, pushing, like, become more frantic and tense and nuts, so that they just don't really believe it anymore.
Yeah, and they've kind of all been made to do things they're not comfortable with too.
Right.
So they're aligned but not happy about it. Yeah.
And there's this line from Sveta here, Matt. "We may just be those types of people," Sveta said, her voice slightly muffled, "a little closer to being dangerous than average." And she's right. She's right. But that's a very unoptimistic thing for Sveta to say. And I mean, I think out of anything, that gets us into her mindset, right? That, like, I think, like, she's in bad shape, Matt, where she's just like, maybe we're all just inherently dangerous and everything is bad and we're screwed.
Yeah, right. I just think it's a bit funny that Goddess isn't like, why are you in a ball now? She just doesn't care, right?
Yeah,
she just does not care. Like she probably wouldn't even comment if just like one of them was dead.
Yeah.
She'd be like, oh, okay.
Just one less. Well, I mean, she literally says in this, like, a bit later, like, "I hope you die in the fight against the Wardens and that would solve my problem."
Yeah.
And Kenzie's response.
Yeah. If it helps. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we do see here that, like, she gets so paranoid that she brings her cape crock of shit over, which is her lie detector, to determine if they're telling the truth or not. Cole Belcher is loyal. Victoria's wording here that we determine is truth is, like, very, like, precisely worded, right? "I'm in alignment. We all are in breakthrough. Natalie accepted." And part of me wonders if Victoria had not considered Chris no longer a member of the team at this point, if something would have been betrayed there, you know, when she says "in breakthrough." And maybe that's pointless speculation, but I'm just curious about this. Like Chris has kind of removed himself and distanced himself, and Victoria's not even clumping him into "in breakthrough." So when she said that, in her mind, I don't think she was including Chris in that equation. And I wonder if something would have been ruined if she had.
Yeah, I didn't see this as like wizard word games.
I mean, I don't think she's playing word games. I don't think she's, like, trying to outsmart her with how she's wording this. I just think the writing around the wording seems very deliberate.
Yeah. That did not occur to me, but I definitely, it's plausible that she's, like, intentionally shielding Chris in some way. But I don't think she suspects that Chris is not aligned, though. So
yeah,
I don't know.
But yeah, I don't really understand how the truth tell, like, is it sensing when you, is it like you believe what you're saying, or is it this is the actual truth of the matter? I don't know. We don't know how the power works.
Yeah, I would guess the former, because the latter could basically boil down to, like, an incredibly powerful thinker power.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because you could just have someone say a bunch of nonsense sentences, and then, yeah, I don't know. You could definitely exploit it.
That's true.
Yeah. So there's this moment of humanity, I suppose, from Goddess, where she says, "This was easier the first time. A decision I made as a teenager to take over, solve all of the problems. Eternal youth through my cocoon man, beauty, endless wealth and power. It was fine." "It sounds great," Lookout said. "Then it was all taken away. Each and every one of my enemies expects me to take it back, which forces me to do just that, because a third of them would eliminate me, a third would enslave me and use me, and another third would castrate me and take everything vital to me, all of my power. That castration wouldn't guarantee I'm saved from the first two groups." And it's like, here at the end here, poor Bianca, she doesn't have a choice in all this. You know, maybe she should just try to explain it to people, and then everyone can go home.
Yeah, I mean, okay. First of all, she doesn't have a choice in all this is bullshit. Even if all that is true, like, you don't get to just be like, "I'm sorry, I had to kill all these people. Everyone assumed I would, so I just had to."
Yeah. I mean, to me, this all harkens back to the first time we saw her, where she saw a camera in the sky, and Swansong identified fear in her expression. And I think she is motivated by fear, but I think the direction that fear pushes her is always the direction of aggression,
Right.
and taking power. And like, yeah, there was no way she was going to do anything other than this.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, and I think like this quest to return to that way it was before. I mean, like there's a lot of intentionally drawn parallels here, right? To previous characters on Wildbow's books. Like a decision I made as a teenager to take over to solve all of the problems is a very targeted phrasing of words to remind us of our hero of the last book. Like Taylor wanted to take over and solve everyone's problems. She made this decision as a teenager. Here is Goddess who pulled it off. And it was destructive and bad because Goddess is not the same type of person that Taylor is. But I think one of the things that's interested me about that second paragraph, about this idea that everyone thought I was going to go bad again, so I had to. Because that kind of gets us back into this idea of second chances, right? And this idea, this push and pull between, moving forward and being hung up in the past. Because, like, to a certain extent, there is a level of self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, if everyone assumes that you are going to be the worst possible version of yourself, then aren't you kind of screwed from the jump?
Yeah. So like when I was looking at these categories she drew, like the third that would castrate her and take her power, to me, I kind of read that as being the Wardens, actually, because they wouldn't actually be cool with her hoarding the powers of her cluster. Even if she were to like join them, even if she were to be like, look, I submit myself to your authority. Like I don't want to go to jail, but like, I don't want people to come after me either. They probably wouldn't just let her continue to be Goddess. Like she certainly wouldn't have the kind of power that she has. So she's like, yeah, I mean, if I want to keep my godlike level of power and my domination over others, then I have to take over the world. It's like, yeah, I feel real sorry for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the part is like, she comes off as trying to be sympathetic here, and you're just like, it's just like, I'm not sympathetic that you might have lost your terrible, dominating, awful power. But yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about this idea of really giving people second chances, because I mean, that's something that our protagonist is struggling with. And if it's something our protagonist is struggling with and we see someone else in the story struggling with that same thing, that feels like a deliberate connection we're making here. And so, yes, I don't feel bad for Bianca here. I think she is bad, and I think she made a bad choice when she was a teenager. And I think the lesson she learned from the bad choice was, I have to make that again. I have to, or I'm screwed. The only way to be successful is to do that again. And it's so like, she describes it as fine, like eternal youth through my cocoon man, which, by the way, Matt, we got to get ourselves some cocoon men. Yeah. That sounds great.
Definitely.
Beauty, endless wealth, and power. It was fine. And it's just like I don't get a sense of a person who was ever happy with that. Like, it's like, it was what it was. And if I want to keep my power, the things vital to me, if I want to keep the things vital to me, these are the choices I have to make. And so I frame it as having no choice, even though I definitely do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, what like, removing teacher from the equation, who is a bad guy, would the people of the planet, the good people, have tolerated the existence of Goddess who is not specifically engaging in, I'm going to take over your planet type activities?
I think they probably would have tried to curtail her specific master ability, because I'm pretty sure by definition it's an S-class threat ability, because it basically multiplies in power.
Right. Yeah.
The longer she's active. So like, that's I don't think that's something that the Wardens, for example, would be comfortable having around.
I think you're right. But I also think we need to move on, because we got still 5 pages to do.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I know. Finish your thought and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I bet having her danger sense I bet she didn't have a moment of like peace, you know, because she was just always being alerted to like the most niggling thing that was happening in her world, even when she was in power.
Yeah, I mean, especially since the way she rules, like we said, is inherently destructive and risky on its own. Like,
right.
There's always going to be bad stuff. Always.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, the woman in blue flies off, leaving Breakthrough to get ready to fight the Wardens. They aren't thrilled about it, but they'll obey. Yeah,
this will be the last time the story will really play up the effect of the alignment. They're prepping to fight the Wardens. Like, there's this moment where Sveta and Victoria both go, gee, I hope we don't have to fight Weld, your boyfriend. Do you think it's weird that we're about to fight your boyfriend in combat? No, I just hope we don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that we do that here right at the end, because like Wildbow is firmly establishing that, like, look, yes, these guys are resisting, they're doing their Master Stranger stuff, but they are here at the end of the compulsion very much still aligned. Definitely still being controlled by Goddess in that way.
Yeah, the only times when they're not is when they're kind of like on somebody else's track, which is what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
So Victoria heads off to look for a computer for Lookout so that she can do some reconnaissance and so forth. And she notes some things on the way there. She notes Ratcatcher looking away from her and thinks maybe she's pointing. And Victoria kind of decides to interpret that as pointing. So she heads that way and creeps through the creepy building, finds a dead guard, and eventually finds some candy and chips. And she really, really doesn't want to eat them because Goddess wouldn't like that. But then she remembers Master Stranger protocols, and she imagined, and it says, I imagine Natalie with her fingers through her mouth, like it was a mimed order. Driven by an impulse, feeling like I was potentially about to take poison, I took the most dirty, damaged package, opened a hole wider, and then tipped a few of the gummy candies back into my mouth. And then a couple paragraphs later, a part of me wanted it to be. A part of me wanted an excuse to feel less uneasy. The conflict was brewing, and good people were going to get hurt. Goddess was fucked in the head. Fuck her. Fuck this. I hope your fucking danger sense is making your head spin, Lady in Blue. In addition to being awesome, she calls her Lady in Blue instead of Goddess.
Right.
Which,
like that. Yeah. And I was curious about that, and I went and looked and see once this break happens, does Victoria call her Goddess again? And yes, she does. But she starts using Lady in Blue a lot more. She uses Goddess considerably less, and I think that's a really great little thing there that drives the change home, as is that little section break, which I think is just a wonderful little touch, because it's almost as if you're jumping into a different point of view, which you kind of are. Like her perspective has just been completely aligned back to what it was. And it just really sells the importance of this. Like, we've been building to this for 13 chapters. With the minute Victoria got mind controlled, we were like, what's going to happen when this thing breaks? How's it going to break? What's it going to be like? And as if sensing the importance of this moment, Wildbow wrote it with this break in it. And I think, like, structurally on the page, just like attention calling ability on the page, just completely aesthetic, not analysis of reading at all, just the aesthetic view of it as you're reading, I think makes this so badass. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love it. All right. So she immediately stabs all the food and snacks onto the spikes in her costume. Style be damned, she thinks.
Style be damned. Victoria saying style be damned.
Massive character change.
You know it's serious.
Yeah. And then she flies out into the preparation for the battle, sharing the food, kind of saying, big fight, gotta get your energy up. And one of the villains hanging around, chips, fuck yeah, a guy said.
I love it. Chips, fuck yeah.
And she hands out the candy to her group, which is another very tense scene, actually, because you're like, I don't want to gloss over it, but you know, it's just perfectly done, because you're like, please just eat it. Yeah. Everyone just eat it. Don't say anything. Don't give away the game. I like this moment where Rain is like, mind trading, Ken's. Oh, you don't like grape? Not this type. No, he said, because Rain has bad associations with grape.
Yeah, it's that grape candy he was eating when Seer came up to his car and pestered him, right? It's part of the whole chocolate incident of 2018.
Yeah, we got a lot of candy and chocolate related themes in the story.
Yeah.
So the team eats the candy, rapidly becomes realigned. I just love everyone's reaction to it.
Oh yeah, like Swansong being like, "Oh, this is good, Candy," and you're just like, "Yes."
Yeah,
and they do it like one at a time in rapid succession. So you're just like, "It worked. Everyone's back," and you're just celebrating.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Which is perfect because it's like, oh yes, release of tension. Everybody breaks free. Goddess just threw an apartment building at us.
Yeah.
And it's like this incredibly well written, like hectic thing as Victoria tries to grab people. It's this huge building just smashes into the ground. Like you don't know how many people just got crushed. You don't know if team members just got crushed.
Yeah, and I mean that's not something that we really get an answer to in the craziness of the events that come. I mean, obviously no one on her team got killed, but yeah, we don't know how many people that attack just killed.
Yeah, because they were not standing in like a giant open space.
Yeah.
So they're recovering from this strike. Goddess grabs them with her telekinesis. They're boned up, but she has to fend off other attackers, some of the other people that got the candy, and then has to fend off a rapidly attacking cryptid who she realizes too late has nothing organic on him to grab. Inorganic. And he tears her open horribly, and she dies, breaking the compulsion.
Yes.
And it says Cryptid was at the center, his broken neck twisted around, his head dangling. His beak was like a curved blade, gleaming in the rain, pointed at the small of his back. I could see what that was supposed to mean now.
Yeah, and I think Wildbow in a comment called this, was it Twisted Betrayal is the name he gave for the form? I believe it was.
I don't remember, but I think it... obviously it's a backstab, right?
Right.
Or perhaps not. Obviously, I certainly didn't get it until it was held under my nose.
Yeah. So I mean, this is big. Chris has this moment, and it's kind of presumably the culmination of a plan that they've been working on behind the scenes for a while here. So what do you think about this? Like, we just had this moment of our main character saying to her team, "We are not killers. This is not what we do." And again, Goddess probably needs to die here. Like, I don't want to argue whether or not killing Goddess was the right thing. I don't think that's an argument worth having. But what does it say about Chris, his character, his involvement in the team going forward? I mean, obviously, like, murder is not a deal breaker for the team. Swansong's still on it, and she's murdered someone since the story started. So, I mean, what do you think? What is the long-term result of Chris being the one to strike the blow?
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, this is a killing where I just don't see any other way that could have got out of this situation. I don't want to say there's none, but it's like again, if you do want to classify her as an S-class threat, then killing her is practically like the right move. And him being the one to do it, like he says he's already killed someone, but that was by accident. So I just don't know enough about him to say what effect this is going to have on him. Is this going to be something that bothers him tremendously, or is this something that's just going to roll off his back? Is this going to be something that, I don't particularly think the team is going to hold it against him. So
No,
I guess that was your actual question. I don't think they're going to hold it against him.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how he's going to deal with it though.
Yeah. I mean, I was less concerned about what the team is going to react to him. Part of me feels like we have this moment where Chris has basically decided he's not a member of the team anymore. And in the same chapter where Chris decides I'm not really a member of this team anymore, we have Victoria saying we don't kill people, and then the guy who has just decided I'm not a member of the team killing a person. So all I'm saying is, like, maybe he has decided that in order to make this choice, to do this thing, to win this fight, I have to remove myself. I have to unsign up for Breakthrough and remove myself from this team and leave to be this person that does this, to be the one that strikes the killing blow. Justified as it was, maybe he feels that way. And this is speculation because Chris is so mysterious and we understand so little of his underlying personality under what I assume is a lot of like posturing. But I'm just curious about, like, it seems like there's things that line up in that certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really not trying to make a pun here, but he's like being a scapegoat. He's taking the sin onto himself and then recusing himself.
Yeah, and then
almost.
exiling himself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I didn't think of it that way. So yep, all that happened. That's huge plot movements.
Yeah, so you think it's done, right? It's like that's the big thing, and it's done. Nothing more crazy is gonna happen.
Yep. Nope. Because in the immediate aftermath of this killing, Amy, the Red Queen, speaks up. She tells everyone they're going to Earth Shin. They're going to take over. She's going to be in charge, and everybody who comes with her will be reasonably good. And it says she looked almost angry as she looked away, as if she had the fucking right.
So let's talk about this for a while, Matt. This is Amy's decision. She is going to basically take Goddess's place. Her and Chris have basically killed the queen and crowned themselves, more or less, or more specifically Amy than Chris, but he feels like he's going to be like a right hand or something. What do you feel about this? So, I mean, Amy is the queen of bad decisions, I think, and bad decisions for the right reason, because like there's an argument you can construct around this of the prison is gone, these bad people are free now. What are we going to do with them? And Amy says, I have a solution. We have killed the threat. I am going to take them with me to a place and I will rule them benevolently. We will make them better people. We will hold them in check and we will hopefully fix this world. But I don't think it's going to be viewed that way, Matt.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty here because it's like, how are you going to keep him in line? Because if the answer is that Amy's going to start using her power to the fullest extent, which she never has, we've never seen her do that ever, that could be massively destabilizing, like, because she could very well be an S-class threat herself. I mean,
right.
She could in all kinds of terrible ways. So
I mean, when you literally make an S-class threat at the end of the last book, I think that by definition, if you create one, then aren't you one?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that is accurate. And so, yeah, like there's just so many exciting ways this could just go horribly wrong that,
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I think there's a lot to go into this, and here's what I'm concerned about. I am not concerned. I'm going to be honest. I don't care about the people of Earth Shin because those are just like anonymous, like people that we've never met. And like, I don't feel guilty saying that because they're not real people and I've not like hurt their feelings by saying I don't care about them. But I care about Amy and I care about Victoria and I care about Amy and Victoria's relationship. And I see this as Amy making a decision to once again go way above and beyond anything that's being asked of her. Like, Amy seems to be like, every time she makes a decision, she goes too far with it. It's like, I feel guilty for what I did to Victoria. I feel I deserve to be punished. Ergo, I should lock myself up in the birdcage forever because that's what I deserve. It's just like, hey, chill a little bit. Like, I agree, you messed up. You did absolutely mess up. But maybe just like tone that down just a little bit. So yeah, she has this interaction with Victoria. And Victoria basically says, don't you get it? I don't want you here. I don't want you around. And so Amy's decision is, fine. You don't want me around? I'll go to another dimension. And like this moment of anger we see here where like she looks away angry. And like, I don't want to, Victoria has a very, very, very biased point of view when it comes to Amy. So I'm not like fully ready to say that, yes, she was definitely angry in this moment. And it's not another emotion that you're reading as anger because you hate her. That is a possibility. But if that emotion is really angry, then what we're saying here is is this what you wanted, Victoria? Is this what you want? Look, you want me to leave? This is how I leave. And,
look what you made me do.
Right. Yeah. I just like, and you're just like making a decision like this from extreme anger and reeling from a interaction with Victoria that didn't go the way she wanted it to is the exact wrong move to make. And that's why like we can break out the taking these people to another planet and like talk about this as like an independent, is this morally correct? Was this smart? We can do that. But I think for our characters, for the health and the success of our characters, this scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. Just relating to Amy and her psychology, it's really interesting how the fact that Victoria's our point of view, and she has such a non-generous perspective on Amy, causes us to causes me, I guess I should say, to have a very difficult time like parsing Amy's actions, because they're always clouded with Victoria's like veneer of fuck her, she has no right. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, from her point of view, I'm sure she has a right to feel angry. I don't know what exactly she's angry about, and Victoria never even comes close to speculating on that.
Yeah, like her base assumption is she's angry at me for making her do this. Like that's the kind of implied assumption under that line. But she could be angry at the situation. She could be angry at that she's forced to do this. She could be angry at the events in her life that have led her to this. Like, let's not forget that Carol, like the shit mom that we rag on for being shitty to Victoria, was also really shitty to Amy, if not more so than she was to Victoria. I think Amy has plenty of reasons to be angry about things. So yeah, I mean, I like the perspective that she made this choice out of anger at Victoria, and it kind of shows that like the seesawing nature of their relationship, where we see Victoria take positive steps forward in this arc, and the response to that is Amy seemingly taking negative steps back. I like that. I think it fits into what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, there is a realm of Victoria's just reading Amy completely wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think she definitely is. But that doesn't mean we know what Amy's thinking, and I can't wait to find out what she is.
Well, and I mean, it gets back to this whole idea about assuming the worst in people, right? Like, people assumed that Goddess was going to take control again, and therefore she had to do it. Victoria has been assuming that Amy was going to do this from the second chapter in the book. Like, Amy is going to take over a world was something that she accused her of, and here Amy it is fulfilling that prophecy. I don't know like how this conflict is going to roll out in the future, but I do know that there is no way in hell that Victoria, as we know her right now, is going to assume that Amy will benevolently rule this world. Like, that is outside the realm of possibility for Victoria. So whatever's going to happen with this in the future, Victoria is going to want to stop it, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, she's not going to be cool with the idea of this person who she's terrified of, like, ascending to incredibly high levels of personal power.
Yeah.
Like, that's a terrifying thought just in general.
And I wonder if, like, the authority of the world is fine with it. Like, if the wardens go, shit, that solved our problem.
Yeah.
I wonder how Victoria, the like really big like plead to authority person, is going to handle that realization.
Oh, interesting. So put her various mantras in direct conflict with her trauma. In other words. Yeah. That's awesome. I like that.
So there's one more aspect of this we have to talk about before we finish. We have to talk about the fact that Amy says that part of this is a deal she made, and we don't hear who she made a deal with and who we think this person is. And there was a post in the Reddit thread today that I saw, basically outlining the fact that Dinah is the name of one of Alice's cats from Alice in Wonderland, and Through the Looking Glass, one of Dinah's spawn, one of her kittens, ends up being who Alice is kind of like. Through the Looking Glass is a weird book where she goes into the world and then like she's basically waking up from a dream, and the Red Queen that she's been dealing with all the time throughout the book turns out to be that little kitten that was created by Dinah. So I don't like I don't think that the story is going to like line up directly to Through the Looking Glass, but I think this is a pretty interesting theory of a hint that the person she made a deal with here was Dinah. And I think that would be very Dinah to be like, here's a solution to the problem.
Yeah, right. Because, you know, it was a complex plan. It was the kind of plan that, say, a precog might have put into motion.
Right. I mean, like if you look at like Chris, the reason why Chris transforms in front of everyone is because that's how he avoids the danger sense, right? Like when he's standing next to her, he's the ally to her, and he slowly transforms into the one that's going to betray her. And by the time she notices, it's too late. So like this is a complex, multi-leveled plan to get in here, and who knows when the plan even started. So Dinah seems fitting. Yeah,
I like that, and they called it a Doyleist theory.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed that approach to things.
I said the last time we talked about the Red Queen that I needed to go read Through the Looking Glass, and I didn't do that, and now I'm regretting it. But,
We have to. So the chapter wraps up with Amy leaving and Cryptid leaving with her, and then Lookout kind of looks after them and giggles, uncertain, which means that she's upset.
Yeah.
And Swansong wraps her and Sveta's ball in a hug. And then the chapter ends with, "Okay," Byron said, "I'm officially passing the baton. We both know you're good at this part." He blurred. Once I realized what he was saying, a second or so later than I should have, I could understand it. I nodded. "Yeah," Tristan said. He started striding toward the assistant warden. Without turning to face us, he intoned the words, "damage control."
Yeah.
I wonder what this is leading into, Scott.
They've got some splaining to do. Yeah, I mean, this is it's a great transition to what we know is the long-awaited Tristan interlude that I haven't read yet, but I'm sure you have. I know it exists, though. Yeah, I mean, I love how we transition in these ways, because I think damage control is going to be exactly what Tristan is going to be doing, at least for the early part of his chapter. But I really like this because Victoria is basically borderline catatonic here. Like, she's so shocked and thrown off by what just happened that they're like, "Victoria, can you deal with this?" And she's like, no, can't do it. No. So Tristan comes out because we had this form of guy really good at lying.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So I think it is interesting what the fallout of this is going to be, because I mean, I think the wardens know enough about Goddess's power to know that the things, the bad things that they did were not of their own volition. And I actually think Breakthrough comes out of this looking pretty good. I mean, they beat her. They won, right?
Right.
I think this is going to be kind of our introduction to Breakthrough starts working with wardens, and the book kind of moves above like the street level day-to-day crime fighting, and they start like being respected enough to get involved with some of the bigger things that are going on.
Yeah, because they kind of did spearhead this thing and they succeeded. So
yeah.
Or at least they played a huge role. I mean, a lot of people played a role, but they certainly they got the candy. You know, they made big plays.
Yeah, the best member of Breakthrough, Natalie, saved us all.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that much, but holy shit, man, that's awesome. Yeah. Like, it's in the background, and a lot of it is just Victoria like assuming this was what Natalie did, but I believe it.
This conspiracy with her and Ratcatcher, and
talk about making plays in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Way to find those moments, Natalie. It's so great.
Yeah. All right, that wraps up the chapter discussion. I don't think we have time for name game, actually, but
no.
The discussion question this week is as follows. In this week's reading, Victoria discussed two different approaches to dealing with fear, succumbing to it or attacking it, and included the benefits of each one. We see in Carol the idea of bending to that fear. We see in Swansong fighting against that fear. Does the book take a clear side on this argument? Which and why?
Yeah, so I hope that is a good question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing what people think about this because I'm kind of torn on it myself. So whenever I'm torn on something, I kind of crowdsource.
Yeah, and I'm also interested in kind of the lateral thinking answers, because like I would say like I don't know if I do either of those things when I'm feeling fear myself.
Yeah.
So and maybe I'm just excited.
Yeah,
to
you
see
don't have to choose from the two. If you think the book is saying that neither of those are the right thing, go for it.
Yeah. All right. That's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading.
You can reach us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or on Twitter at gotwormpod, where I do my live readings of each and every one of the chapters. I think it's usually Thursday, Sunday is my schedule for those these days. I think I've gotten pretty good down at that. So follow us there. Also follow us there for any, info on episodes. Sometimes we have to delay an episode for one reason or another, and that's where we announce it. So it's a good thing to follow. Do that.
Yeah. It's
and
serious.
you can follow our personal Twitters if you want to see me complain about whatever random thing. I'm at ScottDaily85 and Matt is at Mordina Grape Candy.
That's right. Yeah, and actually, I even enjoy reading Scott's live reads.
Yeah, Matt does this thing, guys, where if I'm like late on my live read, he'll passive aggressively ask me about it. He'll be like, I don't want to be the guy that asks you when you're going to do your live read. And then he'll just end the sentence. And I'll be like, but you're being that.
Yeah. No, I think what I'm trying to convey there is that I don't do it every week. I just bother you.
That's true.
Sometimes.
It is true.
So if you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we strongly recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else in the world that you can listen to podcasts.
And as always, you can find this and all the other podcasts we do over at doofmedia.com. On some of our other shows this week, Vow to View, we're continuing watching scary movies. Me and my wife all week. We watched Nightmare on Elm Street today, and I don't think she liked it very much, Matt.
That's interesting.
And then I think the Doofcast, we're doing our iRobot, or Mr. Robot, not iRobot. We're doing our Mr. Robot episode. That'll be coming out this Friday, I believe.
Yeah. That's right. And if you like any of our shows, including this one, and you want to support them, consider donating to our Patreon account, patreon.com/doofmedia. You can donate $1 a month or whatever else you can afford. Supporting us on Patreon gives you tons of great bonuses, like voting in our quarterly fan art contests and costume contest, Q&A sessions, access to live streams of our recording sessions, and our excellent Discord chat. Special thanks to new Bidoof Benjamin S. donating at the $1 level. Thanks so much. Everything helps, and it's just always an honor for anybody to give us any amount of money, honestly.
Yeah, it really is. And the fourth generation of Pokemon Go came out today, and you can now catch a Bidoof in that game. So, do that.
Yeah.
And then give us $1.
Yeah. And as always, of course, make sure you go over to Wildbow's Patreon, patreon.com/wildbow, and donate to him as well. This is his world. We're just playing in it.
And if you cannot afford to donate right now, that is absolutely okay. You can instead sneak some drugs into some grape candy and give it to people and maybe convince them to listen. Or you could just head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review. This week's review comes from Paralinguist, who gives us 5 stars and says, We've Got Worm/Ward is an excellent companion to both the original and its sequel. We've Got Worm is a great way for me to re-examine the nuance and detail in Worm, and Matt and Scott have handled the transition to a live analysis of the sequel with a plum. Come for the analysis and stay for the Fugly Bob's ads. Shit.
Oh my God, we forgot.
I wrote one back in the day, and I just never actually recorded it.
It's okay. It's only been 9 months. I'm sure no one's noticed.
Burn.
and a plum. I mean, I know. I've never been told that I have a plum before.
Thank you so much, Paralinguist. Really appreciate your review. We really appreciate each and every one of you that take the time to send those rating and reviews. It absolutely does help. Thanks, guys, so much. We have over 100 reviews in iTunes right now, which is crazy.
That's unbelievable.
I used to look at podcasts with over 100 reviews and be like, oh, man, I wish I was them. And that's
impossible.
And now I am. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks, yeah. All right, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week to wrap up Arc 9 and possibly to start Arc 10.
Oh, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. Tristan, don't do me like this, Tristan.